Ma'am, the twins whispered. We know what's wrong. We can fix it. Kimberly Caldwell looked down, ready to snap. Her company was collapsing. $3 billion disappearing by the second. 10 experts had failed. And now, 2 8-year-old girls with matching ginger curls were interrupting the worst moment of her life. Children, actual children, claiming they could solve what top experts couldn't. But she had nothing left to lose. Imagine, a female CEO giving 2 little girls 15 minutes to save her empire. What happens next will shock you. 37 minutes earlier, Kimberly reviewed quarterly projections in her corner office, perfectly composed in her tailored suit. Her long, curly blonde hair swept into an immaculate low bun. Everything in her world was controlled, measured, predictable. Then her CTO burst through the door, his face pale as old newspaper. We've been hacked. It's catastrophic. The operations center was chaos. Screens flashed angry red. 10 specialists hunched over keyboards, fingers flying, sweat on foreheads despite the cold air conditioning. The virus, elegant, sophisticated, impossible, was draining client assets at a rate that made Kimberly's stomach lurch. Status, she barked. We can't isolate it, her lead engineer said, voice cracking. It's rewriting itself. Every countermeasure we deploy, it adapts. We've never seen anything like this. Kimberly watched the numbers climb. $3 billion evaporating while the best minds in cybersecurity scrambled uselessly. Find it, she barked. Shut it down. Do something. But nothing worked. The virus moved like smoke, always 3 steps ahead, mocking their expertise. Everything she'd sacrificed, every relationship she'd ended, every friendship she'd let die, every night she'd chosen her office over a life. It was all crumbling in real time, and she was powerless. What if the solution wasn't in the boardroom, but hiding in plain sight? Keep listening, you won't believe who steps in. Martin Ashford wasn't supposed to be at Caldwell Technologies that Tuesday morning. He worked the night shift, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., mopping floors in the quiet building while the world slept. But his colleague called in sick, and Martin said yes to covering the afternoon shift. The twins were thrilled. Daddy, we can finally see where you work, Emma said, bouncing on her toes. Please, 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 Ella added, her ginger curls bobbing. It was their school break, and they'd been asking for weeks. Martin ran out of reasons to say no. At 8:30 a.m., he walked into the gleaming lobby with Emma and Ella flanking him, their matching backpacks making them look even more identical. The building in daylight felt foreign, filled with people in sharp suits, energy humming through every corridor. So different from the empty halls he knew. He took them to the small janitor's break room on the second floor. Worn couch, scratch table, old coffee maker. Stay here, okay. Martin knelt to their level. I need to grab supplies from storage. I'll be right back. Don't wander off. We promise, Daddy, Emma said solemnly. Cross our hearts, Ella added. Martin kissed their foreheads and headed down the hallway. The twins lasted exactly 5 minutes. Do you hear that? Emma whispered, tilting her head. Ella nodded. Raised voices, hurried footsteps. Something electric and wrong in the air. We should stay here, Ella said, but she was already standing. Just a quick look, Emma agreed. They slipped out and followed the sound up the stairs. The commotion grew louder with each floor. Shouts, rapid keyboard clicks, tension thick in the air. At the doorway of the massive operations center they stopped. Dozens of people crowded around enormous screens. Code, beautiful, complex, deadly, flowed across the displays. At the center stood a woman with blonde hair, face pale, hands clenched tight, knuckles white. Emma and Ella understood immediately, the patterns, the panic, the desperation. This was a cyber attack, and it was winning. They exchanged that look, the one only twins share. An entire conversation in a glance. Should we? What if they don't listen? What if Dad finds out? But Dad always said to help when we can. Emma remembered the night months ago, walking home, seeing an elderly man struggling with groceries. Martin stopped immediately. We help when we can, girls. Always. That's what makes us human. Decision made. They stepped into the room. Ella reached up and tugged the blonde woman's sleeve. Kimberly looked down, startled. Two little girls with matching ginger curls stood before her, out of place in her war room. Yes, Kimberly snapped, patience gone. Who are you? How did you get in here? We can help, Ella said quietly. What? The virus, Emma added, pointing at the screen. We can stop it. For a moment, Kimberly could only stare. These were children, no more than 8, barging into a corporate catastrophe with backpacks and juice boxes. This isn't a game, Kimberly said, voice dangerous. Where are your parents? How did you get up here? Our dad works here, Emma said quickly. He's getting supplies. But please, ma'am, really, we can help. That's a polymorphic worm with recursive encryption. It's brilliant, actually. But there's a pattern. To a what? A senior engineer spun around. The virus is rewriting itself every 37 seconds, Ella explained, her 8-year-old voice matter-of-fact. That's why you can't isolate it. But it leaves trace signatures in the system memory. If you track the ghost footprints instead of chasing the active code, you can predict where it'll resurface and build a cage around it. The room went silent. Every head turned. Two little girls speaking like they'd written a textbook on advanced cybersecurity. Your father works here, Kimberly repeated slowly. Doing what? He's a janitor, Emma said simply. Night shift usually. He's covering for someone today. The CTO stepped forward, staring. How old are you two? 8, they said in perfect unison. Let them try, someone called from the back. We've got nothing to lose. We've already lost everything. Kimberly's instinct screamed to refuse. It was absurd, impossible. But she looked at the screens, her company bleeding out, her team exhausted, and made a split-second decision that would change her life. Fine, give them a terminal. Emma and Ella moved like they'd been born to this. Fingers danced across the keyboard in perfect sync, one typing, one monitoring, speaking in half-sentences that completed each other's thoughts. The room held its breath. Code flowed across the screen. The twins worked with efficiency that bordered on supernatural. Young faces illuminated by blue glow. Concentration absolute. Kimberly watched, transfixed. Who were these children? 10 minutes passed. The hemorrhaging slowed. 12 minutes. The virus faltered. 15 minutes it stopped. $3 billion frozen but recoverable. The attack neutralized. The impossible solved. The operations center erupted. Shocked exclamations, disbelief? Engineers crowding the terminal, examining the elegant solution the twins had coded. How did you? Emma? Ella? The voice from the doorway cut through everything. Male, strangled, terrified. Martin Ashford stood there in his janitor's uniform, box of cleaning supplies forgotten, face white as chalk. His daughter surrounded by executives and engineers, hands still on the keyboard. His greatest fear realized. What did you do? The twins spun around. Kimberly saw something that cracked her icy exterior, genuine fear on their faces. Not of punishment, but of disappointing him, causing him more pain. Daddy, we're sorry, Emma whispered, tears starting. We were supposed to stay in the break room. We just wanted to help, Ella added, voice breaking. We heard the noise and we came up. Martin dropped the box. Cleaning supplies scattered across the expensive carpet as he crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled both girls into his arms. Kimberly expected anger, shouting. Instead, she watched this janitor hold his daughters as his shoulders shook. I'm proud of you, he said, voice thick with emotion. I'm so proud of you both. The twins cried in earnest, relief flooding them. We thought you'd be angry. Never. Martin pulled back to cup their faces, thumbs wiping tears. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I made you think you had to hide who you are. I'm sorry I let my pain steal your dreams. Kimberly watched, something unfamiliar stirring in her chest. When was the last time anyone looked at her with that much pure love? The CTO stepped forward cautiously. Sir, I don't know who you are, but your daughters just saved this company. They're the most talented. Wait. One senior engineer interrupted, staring at Martin with widening eyes. You're Martin Ashford. You designed the Fortress Protocol. You worked at Quantum Defense Systems. You were a legend in cybersecurity. What do? Not now, Martin said quietly but firmly. He stood, keeping the twins close. But sir, your daughters. Thank you for letting them help. Martin's voice polite but closed off, body language screaming the conversation was over. Come on, girls. Wait. Kimberly's voice cut through the murmurs. She stepped forward, heels clicking. Please. Martin paused, looking at her wearily. Your daughters just saved my company, Kimberly said, voice softer than anyone had heard it. They saved everything I've built. Please let me thank them properly. Dinner tomorrow night. My treat. That's not necessary, Martin said, shaking his head. I insist. Kimberly looked at Emma and Ella, saw their hopeful expressions. They deserve to be celebrated. Please, Miss Caldwell. Kimberly, she corrected. And I won't take no for an answer. These two are extraordinary, and the least I can do is buy them pizza. Martin hesitated, torn between protecting his privacy and the twins' eager faces. Please, Daddy, Emma whispered. It's just dinner, Ella added. Martin looked at his daughters, then at Kimberly, and felt something shift. This woman, the CO barking orders minutes ago, looked at his girls with genuine warmth. All right, he said. Finally, dinner. Kimberly showed up to the restaurant the next evening, expecting an awkward meal. What she found surprised her more than any data breach. She found herself laughing, actually laughing for the first time in years, as Emma told a story about a squirrel they named Algorithm who broke into their bird feeder. So, we had to engineer a solution, Ella added, hands gesturing. We created a pulley system with counterweights, so only light birds could land. Did it work? Kimberly asked, curious. For 3 days, Emma said with a grin. Then Algorithm figured out the pulley and broke it. We have to respect the hustle. Kimberly laughed again, the sound foreign in her ears. Martin was quiet, watching his daughters with that soft expression that made Kimberly's chest tighten. When was the last time someone looked at anything with that much pure love? What made you start your company? Emma asked, tilting her head. I wanted to prove I could, Kimberly said, then paused. Why was she being honest? I wanted to prove I was worth something. You're worth lots of things, Ella said matter-of-factly. Like at least 12 things, maybe even 15. Kimberly felt something crack in her chest. 15 things? That's generous. We could make a list if you want, Emma offered seriously. After the twins got distracted by coloring menus, Kimberly turned to Martin. She'd been curious since yesterday, consumed by it. Can I ask you something? She said quietly. Martin looked up from his water glass, expression guarded but not unfriendly. Depends on the question. Why is one of the most brilliant cybersecurity architects in the industry working as a night janitor? Martin was silent a long moment, jaw working. Kimberly almost apologized, but then he spoke. Because I couldn't do it anymore. The work I loved, that defined me, I couldn't do without remembering what it cost me. What did it cost you? Martin looked at his daughters, making sure they were absorbed in coloring. When he spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. My wife, Grace. 12 months ago. Kimberly's breath caught. I was working late, Thursday evening. Critical security update. The twins were with me at the office. They often were. They loved the technology. He paused, and Kimberly waited. Grace called around 7, said she'd come pick us up, take us to dinner. The twins loved this Italian place downtown. I told her to give me another hour. Martin's voice cracked. She said, I'll leave now. See you soon, love. Kimberly's heart clenched. She never made it. A drunk driver ran an intersection at twice the speed limit, hit her car broadside. Police said she died instantly. Like that was supposed to make it easier. Martin, Kimberly breathed, her hand moving toward his. If I'd left on time, if I'd taken the girls home earlier, if I just said no to one more project, one more late night, his voice broke. Grace wouldn't have been on that road. She'd still be alive, still be here, still be their mother. It wasn't your fault, Kimberly said softly. Wasn't it? Martin looked at her, pain in his eyes devastating. I chose work over family. I chose one more hour over going home. And she died because of that choice. You chose to finish something important. That's not the same as choosing work over family. And a drunk driver chose to get behind the wheel. That's not on you. Martin shook his head. Logically, I know that, but guilt doesn't care about logic. It eats at you every day. So you quit. 3 weeks after the funeral, cashed everything out, set up trust funds for the girls, took the first job with nothing to do with technology. I thought if I ran far from the work that cost me Grace, I could escape the guilt. Did it work? No. Martin's laugh was bitter. It just made me hollow, living without purpose, drowning in guilt every day. But at least I had time with Emma and Ella. At least I could be there for them the way I wasn't for Grace. Kimberly was quiet, processing. What you didn't know was the twins were still coding. Martin's expression softened. In secret. Late at night, hidden lapped up under Emma's bed. They protected me from their passion because they didn't want to hurt me more. They love you very much. They're my reason for breathing, Martin said simply. They're why I get up every morning, even when guilt tells me I don't deserve to. Kimberly looked at this brilliant, broken, devoted man, and felt something shift. Something dangerous, unfamiliar, terrifying. You know what I think? She said quietly. What? I think she'd want you to live. Really live. Not just exist. To let Emma and Ella be who they're meant to be. To stop punishing yourself for being human. Martin stared at her, eyes bright. I think she'd want you to honor her memory by embracing life, not running from it. I don't know if I can, Martin whispered. I think you're braver than you realize. Kimberly's hand covered his across the table. They sat connected, two broken people seeing possibility in each other. Emma looked up from coloring. Daddy's smiling again. Ella nodded. Miss Kimberly makes him smile. Martin and Kimberly pulled back, self-conscious. But they were smiling. That dinner changed everything. More dinners followed. Weekend outings Kimberly looked forward to with eagerness. The twins dragged her to museums, asking impossible questions about ancient civilizations and if Egyptians understood basic coding. Martin cooked dinner at their modest apartment one evening, better than any chef. Watching him explain techniques to the twins as they helped, Kimberly felt envious of this warmth, this family. You're staring, Martin said, not looking up from chopping. I'm observing, Kimberly corrected, but she smiled. She started showing up at school events. Watched Emma's science presentation on quantum computing with pride, cheered loudly when Ella won the spelling bee. One evening on their small balcony while twins did homework inside, Kimberly made an offer. I'd like you to come work for me. Head of cybersecurity at Caldwell Technologies. Martin's eyes widened. Kimberly, we need someone brilliant, who understands vulnerable systems, who knows losing everything and wants to protect others from that pain. I don't know if I can. I'm not asking you to decide now. Think about it. She paused. And I'd like to sponsor a special program for gifted young coders. Emma and Ella would be perfect. Martin looked at her long, something shifting. Why are you doing this? Because watching you hold your daughters in that operation center was the first time in 10 years I felt something real. Kimberly's voice quiet. Because you reminded me there are things more important than profit margins. Because I think, she trailed off. Because you think what? Because I think you're brave. And I'd like to learn how to be brave too. The transformation happened slowly, like ice melting in spring. Gradual, inevitable, beautiful. Kimberly started leaving work at reasonable hours. Her assistant nearly fainted the first time she said, "That can wait until tomorrow." She attended the twins' school play, sitting next to Martin, heart swelling as Emma and Ella performed a skit about robots learning emotions. Martin took a consulting project with Caldwell, small and manageable. Hands shook the first time he touched a work keyboard. But Kimberly was patient, never pushed, gave space. The twins flourished, genius recognized, no more hiding. Attended the gifted program, came home excited about projects. Daddy, did you know you can use machine learning to predict weather? Ella asked one evening. And we're building a program to help identify food allergies before they become dangerous, Emma added. Martin watched his animated, brilliant, free daughters, and felt peace he hadn't in 12 months. One evening, Kimberly helped Martin cook. Disaster. How did you set water on fire? Martin asked, half laughing, half horrified. I have no idea, Kimberly stared at the smoking pot. I followed your instructions. I said simmer, not summon flames of destruction. Emma and Ella giggled from the doorway as they scrambled to contain the catastrophe. Later, after ordering pizza, sitting on the living room floor surrounded by twins' artwork, Martin's hand brushed Kimberly's. Neither pulled away. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? For seeing us. For seeing me. Kimberly's throat tightened. Thank you for teaching me how to live. Emma and Ella exchanged knowing glances. Their father smiling again, really smiling. This woman with blonde hair looking at him like he hung the moon. It wasn't dramatic. No lightning bolt or grand gesture. Just two broken people healing each other with patience, presence, courage to try again. One evening, Martin showed Kimberly old photos of his first office at Quantum Defense. That was before everything changed. Nothing changed for the worse, Kimberly said softly. It transformed. You transformed. And maybe that's not the tragedy you think. Martin looked at her, this woman once ice and ambition, now warmth and laughter and home. I think I'm falling in love with you. Kimberly's 590 breath caught. I think I fell weeks ago and was too scared to say it. Their first kiss tasted like hope, second chances, promise of better tomorrows. 2 years after the data breach, Martin brought Kimberly back to the operations center. Emma and Ella hiding nearby, vibrating with excitement over their role. The room looked different, less sterile, more lived in. Martin's team, his now as head of cybersecurity, had personalized spaces, photos, plants, life. This is where everything changed, Martin said, holding her hand. Where 2 8-year-old girls showed me running from my past wasn't honoring Grace's memory. Living was. Kimberly felt tears. Martin. This is where I watched the coldest person I'd met reveal the warmest heart I'd known. He smiled soft and certain. This is where my life began again. He knelt, pulling out a small velvet box. Kimberly's hand flew to her mouth. Kimberly Caldwell, you taught me broken things can become beautiful, endings can be beginnings, love doesn't have to be perfect to be real. His voice shook. Will you marry me? Yes. Emma and Ella burst from hiding. Say yes. Say yes. Say yes. Kimberly laughing and crying. Yes. Yes. 1,000 times yes. Martin slipped the ring on as the twins crashed into them. Tangle of arms, tears, joy. The four stood in the operations center where it began, holding each other. A family built from broken pieces and brave choices. 6 months later, Kimberly stood in her office, same where CTO burst in with failure news, looked at photo on desk. All four at the beach, windswept, happy. Martin arms around Kimberly, Emma and Ella building sand castle with engineering principles. Her company recovered, thrived. But that wasn't what made her smile every morning. It was Martin's key in the door at day's end. Twins' excited voices on latest project. Family dinners where everyone helped, nobody set anything on fire. The way Martin looked at her like she was his world. The way twins called her Kimberly, but it sounded like family. Martin stopped running from pain, started living with it. Grace's memory not a wound, but foundation for their new life. Emma and Ella thriving in gifted program, courted by universities at 10. But more importantly, happy, whole, free to be brilliant without hiding. And Kimberly, who built empire on ice, learned the warmest thing wasn't profit or reports. It was coming home to 3 people who loved her for who she was. Sometimes salvation comes from unexpected places. From janitors once legends, From children seeing possibilities where adults see impossibilities. From hearts brave enough to risk feeling again. In the end, it wasn't the data breach that changed everything. It was two 8-year-old girls who saw someone drowning and refused to look away. Who reminded a broken man life was worth living. Who showed a cold CEO the best algorithms couldn't calculate love's value. Martin never imagined covering a shift would lead to the best decision of his life. Kimberly never knew her greatest catastrophe would introduce her greatest love. Emma and Ella never planned to save anyone. They just wanted to help. But that's how the best things happen, when we're brave enough to help, feel, try again. Because you never know who's waiting on the other side of your fear. You never know what beautiful things can grow from broken pieces. If this story touched your heart the way it touched mine, please don't let it end here. Let it remind you kindness matters, compassion changes lives, hope is never wasted. Subscribe and be part of our Soul Lift Stories family, where every story lifts the spirit and reminds us light always finds its way back. And if this moment moved you, share it. Because sometimes sharing hope is the kindest thing we can do.